Good morning, Kimberly here. I am a nurse of 25 years working in the ER, and I'm just going to do a little get ready with me, and we're going to chat, so let's get into it. I have talked about the fact that I have been watching the Karen Reed trial, and I want to talk about day one testimony from Timothy Nutall. I have not watched the first trial, okay, so I'm kind of coming into this new with fresh eyes, hearing what the jury's hearing. I haven't been involved in watching everything on social media. I've seen a little bit, but this is where I'm walking into this case with fresh eyes, and I have so many questions. Okay, so yesterday, or the day that I initially did a video, my last video I posted, I kind of went into it because I kind of was starting late into the trial, where I was talking about the other field training officer who was taken, he was on the stand, and I was questioning a lot. I thought that I didn't realize there had been testimony on day one. I thought those were just opening statements. So I've actually gone back and listened to the trial. I'm not up to day 4, so I still need to catch up where there was apparently more medical testimony. And I really want to do some deep dives into this medical testimony once I digest a little more of what's going on here. Because I feel like there's so many gaps, and if I was the jury, I would be a little dumbfounded about a few things, because there was some things that I feel like the prosecution and the defense didn't really give us clarity on, and I want more answers. And maybe I need to watch it again. I think what I'm going to do is do a stream where I go back into it on a different day, not to get ready with me, and we watch it together, and I kind of parse through the testimony of Timothy Nutall to begin with. The thing that I am gathering is that Timothy Nutall is a new medic. He is new to Canton Fire as far as being a paramedic. He's newer on the department, and my understanding is this correct? If I'm not, somebody let me know. It sounds like Timothy Nutall was one of the new guys, and his field training officer was Daniel Whitley. Is that correct? That's what I'm surmising from what I have so far. Or they were on 2 separate engines, and there were 2 new guys and 2 FTO officers, and we either haven't heard from his FTO field training officer, or we're going to hear from his FTO. I'd like to know. So they weren't real clear on his partner, who his partner was on his shift. And I did look into something because I thought it was kind of interesting that he was jumping the rig at 6 o'clock in the morning, which also let me understand that this is what we call an FNG. And if you don't know what that is, look it up. I'm not going to say it on here. But he's the boot, he's the FNG, he's the Pro B, he's the new guy, okay? He's that new guy who's really eager, and, he still has a lot to prove before he passes probation. And he's going through the training period. And he got to the station early, an hour early, which they kind of are expected to do. When you're the new guy, like, you get to the station early, you set everything up for your crew. You're that new guy. That's your job. You got to be on it, be ready, set up the rig, make sure everything's done, and just be on time. Because if you're not there an hour early or late, of course, that's how it works in these kind of things. You're the new guy and you have a lot to prove. So he's got a lot to prove. He gets there an hour early and he jumps a call, which it can happen, but I guarantee you there was some shit that went down this pipe that he jumped a call with the offgoing crew, which either they wanted him to or he just did it. I don't know. It sounds like they were, adrenaline was up and they all jumped on that call. Typically they will get in early, start getting their rig ready and doing your, counts and everything else to set their rig up for the next shift, which they have upcoming. Because usually they do 24-hour shifts. I think in Canton they may either do 12s or 24s. It sounds like they do 24 hours, like here, in Los Angeles and LA, where I've worked before. It's on a Kelly schedule. So they do the 96, it's on for a segment of 3, off for, it's on, off. Like, it's a Kelly schedule. Okay. That's what they call it. So their shift starts at 7. So their shift starts at 7. Timothy Nutall was there at 6. The call came out at 6:02. He had barely been there for a minute, and he jumped the rig with the ongoing shift or the offgoing shift. So usually you do get there early. So if there is that 7 a.m. call, that you can, relieve the next shift so that they don't get held over. And it never fails when you work in medical, in EMS especially. And like I said, I've been doing this 25 years. I have been a registered nurse in the ER for almost all of that. Some of it was in ICU. But I also was a mobile intensive care nurse, which means I had a lot to do with the pre-hospital care setting. I was a TNCC nurse. I had my CCRN and my CEN. So I was certified. I did all of these things for a number of years. I worked with ambulances and the pre-hospital community very intensely. So I have a lot of insight on how all that goes. So when you're the new guy, it is your job to get everything ready. You're toting the bags, you're doing the things, you're doing the grunt work of it all. Okay, I hate to say it, it's just how it goes. It's not really it's not hazing, it's not mean. It's to teach you your responsibilities towards and be respectful to your elders. Honestly, they use it a little bit, much. Sometimes they tell the guys they got to be the ones to bring in the bagels or donuts every day and to make everybody happy. They do it, they want to pass their probation and they want to get in good with everybody. So it's a period of it's a time where you prove yourself. This kid, though, I'm sorry, he just is coming off like a rescue Ricky to me. He is way too eager, and he still to this day is way too dug in on his story. And I'm going to call it a story because we all know he's already been impeached on the stand on some stuff, and his testimony isn't lining up to what actually happened. The whole thing. Did he have a coat? Did John have a coat? Did he not have a coat? What did he chart? Was it incorrect? True. I do want to say, though, there is a question in my mind. If I was a juror, I would say to myself, when Karen was laying on John trying to get him warm, did Timothy mistake John having a coat for Karen either trying to warm him with her coat or her putting her coat over him? Did that ever happen? We don't know. Nobody's ever mentioned it. It sounds like he indicated that he was trying to remove John's coat and he had a winter coat on. He probably charted something that either didn't happen or, I don't know, there was a miscommunication about it. I can only guess, but like if I was a juror, I would be questioning his testimony because there was no clarifications on how that could have come into his testimony. So nobody has tried to clarify that for us, and the cross happened, and that was it. So I'm going to go in with my eyeliner, which is my worst part of the whole video. And I think what I'm going to do is pause this real quick, put it on, and then come back on. Okay. All right. We are back. I finished my eyeliner. I'm going to go ahead and put my mascara on, and then we'll do the rest of the face. So, like I was talking about with Timothy Nutall, he was the new guy. And, I'm trying to be respectful, but at the same time, it's hard to not have like tongue in cheek and be like, okay, this guy, because when I say he comes off like a rescue Ricky, he's really eager. And there's this mentality sometimes that happens with nurses, that happens with medics. They come out of school, they think they know everything. They know their book stuff and they know their basics. They've been on a BLS rig, but they haven't been on a ALS rig, which is an advanced care life support rig, where there's doing calls like cardiac arrests and hypothermic situations. He might have seen them before as an EMT, but most of those EMT rigs that you work on in private sector, you're doing BLS transporting only, and the situations are not as intense as they would be with the ALS calls. Now, he might have been a EMT on an ALS rig with a private sector ambulance. I don't know. They never really got into all that. But he's so enthralled with his training and who he is and his identity associated with his new role that he's getting ahead of himself, and he's hurting himself in testimony. And when I say I know he's probably going to be getting a lot of shit, he should be by his command at his fire station. And I would hope so, but it sounds like he's so connected with the townies in this situation that he might be escaping some of it. His relation to Jen McCabe, to her daughter, to the family, to his own family, who was involved in the Camden Fire Department or the one of the fire departments in Mass. They all sound really well connected. So his connections may be buying him some lack of discipline, because he should be getting a literal, I'm going to say proverbial paddle for this, because he has done some things that are not in line with what should happen in it's a little disgraceful as far as what he's attributing as his heroic life-saving things. And one of the things nobody's talking about, and I'm going to darn well talk about it, is why the hell he was allowed to intubate a patient who clearly had what we call raccoon eyes. Okay, that is a very clear sign of someone who has had an injury that is called a basilar, or basal skull fracture. Those are 100% in the book of rules that you have, in the protocols, in the procedures. You never put a advanced airway in somebody that appears to have a base of skull fracture. Anytime there is the battlefield bruising back here or the raccoon eyes, that is a clear indication that there is a base of skull fracture. And what happens is the bones in the back of the head shift forward. When you put an advanced airway in with a endotracheal, with the tools that are used to intubate endotracheally, you can actually press the bones and cause crushing to the back of the palate into the brain, because there's an instability going on in the interior fossas of the skull area and the sinus region in the back of the throat. So I don't understand whose judgment call it was to put a advanced airway in John O'Keefe, but that clearly, I'd like some information from the coroner on that, because that can actually attribute or expedite his death if he wasn't dead already. And they did say, like they said, and I mentioned it before, they don't call someone, no one is dead until they're warm and dead. When someone freezes in a really rapid fashion, or their body temp drops while they're going through their heart is being, function is decreasing, or there's blood loss, there is a chance for resuscitation if their body was cooled rapidly. So we do not warm rapidly, and we do not intubate someone who has a base of skull fracture. Not in the field. It has to be done in a whole different way. You can maintain a BLS airway, clear the secretions with suction, and continue to do bag mask ventilations. And that is usually what should be done in that kind of situation. And I don't usually, get so passionate about this, but this is something that is not something new. This is not something just known to one section of the field, like here where I'm at. This is all across the country, okay? These are like standards and guidelines that anyone can tell you about. And I want to hear from that neurologist, or I think it's a neurosurgeon that's going to testify about their take on this as well, because that shouldn't have happened, and there could be grounds for medical malpractice here. So I did hear that Peg O'Keefe and her son and Kristen Kaylee are named in a civil suit that has been filed against Karen Reed, and that to me another woohoo moment, because what I find interesting is they are only naming Karen Reed in their lawsuit. And usually when there's a motor vehicle versus pedestrian, or there is a possibility for where someone has died from an accident, when those claims are being filed and those go to court to sue people, they sue everyone, okay? You sue everyone that is involved or could be involved, or anyone that might have a policy from anywhere. They're going to go for anyone that has a money grab or has a possibility that they were involved in anything to do with anything on or surrounding their murder. I know this to be fact. I have had my brushes with this kind of thing. We'll get into it later, but my own son was hit by a car and had catastrophic injuries. So maybe I'm a little bit more passionate about this case because of my own issues that I have with that. And I say issues, it's just something I lived through over 20 years ago. I know about auto versus ped like nobody else because I lived through it. And, I also lived through a court case that went on for a number of years because of it. And it wasn't me that was saying this is who needs to be brought into the case. It was the lawyers who were looking at where culpability was at in the whole thing. And it wasn't just the driver of the vehicle. There was other factors at play. There was a dumpster in the roadway where the crosswalk, had been set down in a crosswalk so that my son couldn't be seen when he was being coming out from the crosswalk. The trash company was brought into it. The homeowners insurances of both policies were brought into it. They countersued me, saying I was a negligent mother for letting my son walk home from school 3 blocks. They tried to sue my homeowner's policy for their own distress. So I'm just telling you, like, I've lived through this, and I'm telling you, they call in everybody that they think could be responsible. This is either a public relations thing to draw attention to Karen Reed and, you know, pin her as the one who was responsible for this. And I have an issue with that too, because it lets us know that Peg O'Keefe, who is the number one signer on that lawsuit, sees Karen Reed as the one who's at fault, and she has not even been proclaimed guilty. So, you know, we got to remember, people are innocent till proven guilty, but they're already assigning judgment here without even having a verdict in the case. I think they jumped a verdict is what they did. They filed the lawsuit before they got the verdict on the last case, and it continued to be, you know, it was a hung jury. So anyway, what I have a problem with is that they're not naming anyone else. And you know what? John McCabe, not John. This is hard because there's so many names that keep getting said over and over and over and over again. Not Jen McCabe. The family that owns the home where John died, their policy should be brought into this. They should be sued as well. But according to, you know, former disgraced Trooper Proctor, you know, they wanted to make sure that the homeowner didn't catch any shit. So something is manipulating Peg O'Keefe not to bring them into, the Albert family into this at all. And although, you know, there should be some culpability if you're going to go for something in a lawsuit or damages, they should be trying to tap into the homeowner's policy as well. So they're just going over after Karen Reed. She's got probably a big policy on her Lexus. They look at her as somebody who might have some money after doing some television documentaries, and I'm sure they're going after her for that. So that will be interesting to see how that develops, but I do see this as being problematic. So I'm going to keep following this. As I go through it more, and as we all go through it more over the coming weeks, I mean, this will all develop. I have questions. You want answers. I know we all do. I want to go through Mr. Tuttle's testimony again, and I want to kind of pick it apart a little bit and try to understand what the hell was going on. I want to know, did he jump a rig with another ambulance or another fire truck that was a fire ambulance? Was he overzealously tackling procedures he shouldn't have been doing? Is he doing a procedure on someone because someone is presumed dead, and usually when that happens, they're like, this person's probably not going to make it. Go ahead and intubate and get one of your sign-offs done. I believe that probably could have happened too. But still, he should have never, ever, ever attempted a advanced airway intubation on somebody who had a base of skull fracture or evidence of a base of skull fracture. I have to get to work, and I'm stressed out because I don't want to work tonight. But it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I can do anything for 12 hours. Any of us can do anything for 12 hours. We will survive. I promise you that. I'm on night 2 of 3. I actually got a little cut short on my days off, so kind of sucks, but here we are. So I am just about done here. I got to put some lips on. I'm probably going to do that off camera because I got to brush my teeth again, but we'll see. Maybe I got to go, so I got to do my hair too. All right, you guys, it has been fabulous. I hope you're all having a wonderful weekend. I am getting ready for 2 of 3, and I will see you on the flip side.